Okay, fam. Today is Romans 1 through 4. So I started the book of Romans today. And again, as a reminder, in case you're just for some reason jumping in the middle and this is the first video that you see, I'm doing a reading through the Bible in a year chronologically app. And so what it's doing is it's taking me right now through the early church. It started obviously in Acts, and then it's bounced around as the apostles, the disciples, go to different areas around the world. We start reading the letters that were written to them. And so this time it's the letter written to the church in Rome. And they had a good reputation. They were, Paul says that they had their reputation is known throughout the world. And so, this particular church had a good reputation. Paul wanted to go visit them and impart them with a spiritual gift of some sort and be mutually encouraged by them. Now, here's the thing that struck me with Romans, just the general vibe and all of that, is that it's the first letter that we see in here in our series on the early church, where where Paul begins to kind of dig deep into doctrine. And so in these first four chapters, he's talking about really the importance of Jesus, but he does so by really kind of describing the law and circumcision. And when he talks about both of those, he's talking about them. He uses them both literally, but then also figuratively. And so when you're reading it, you kind of need to be aware of the context of each statement, because sometimes he might be referring to circumcision as literal, and then sometimes he's talking about circumcision as figuratively, referring either to the Jewish people as a whole, in other words, the circumcision, those people. The same he does that with the law, like people of the law type of a thing. What's interesting is that, when we are seeing the early church, they're talking about how our faith, in a sense, takes priority over the law and over obedience, aka circumcision. And what's interesting is Paul's making a case that, yes, that's true, but also the law is important. And he says in chapter 4 that where there's no law, there's no judgment. And so, yes, the law is important, and we can't just kind of like do away with it and pretend like it has no value and no place, because it does. And so it's just these first four chapters of Romans is heavy. It's beginning to be heavy in doctrine, and it's one of those things where you just really want to sit down and study it so you really understand this interplay, this inner working between faith and obedience, and so and the law that requires certain things of us, right? So anyways, that's my hot take for Romans 1 through 4 in the context here chronologically of the early church.